Okay, Google. Okay, Google. Sing a song. Okay, Google. What's the distance between Earth and Moon?
The moon is 384,400 kilometers from Earth.
Hi, so I'm Andrew Jones. I'm a woodworking YouTuber, and there's a Raspberry Pi in that, and that's talking to Google's AI services, and it's a DIY Google Home. But I'll talk a bit more about that later. I'm really here to talk sort of combining traditional woodworking techniques with technology. Oops, hang on, there we go. So I'll just talk a little bit about my background and how I ended up here. My day job is IT, that's what pays the bills, and kind of like a lot of people in IT, because we're working in software and on such intangible things you can't actually touch or feel. A lot of people in IT do things like woodworking or like hiking or mountain biking or something like that, is to kind of get back into the real world and actually work on something you can feel and touch. And I really felt like that was something missing from my life a few years ago. And in high school, I did a lot of woodworking in high school. And like during lunch breaks, I was often in the shop building stuff, even though I was outside of woodworking class time. And since leaving high school, it was always, you go to uni, you're in share houses, you're in flats, and it's kind of, I always wanted to get back into it, but it was sort of a high barrier for entry. And also, I bought a pretty modest house in northeastern Melbourne, and that didn't have a lot of space. My shed is 7 by 9 feet, which I'll talk about more later. And again, it was always the big mental barrier about getting into woodworking. It's like, I need a bandsaw, I need a table saw, I need all these big, expensive tools. And yeah, so it was always just like something I'll do when I'm retired, or like something I'll do in 10 years. But early 2015, I literally just stumbled across the hand tool woodworking movement on YouTube. I think I was watching Homestead videos at the time, and a hand tool woodworking video came up in the YouTube recommendation. And I saw this movement, and I was just like, that I can do. It's, you need, I think, limited 10 tools. I think you need to get started with hand tool woodworking, and you don't need much space. Do we have a mouse? Yes. So this here was one of the first projects I made. It's traditional shaker style jewelry box with dovetail joinery, and it's made out of scrap Merbau decky wood from Bunnings. Yeah, and this was probably my first non-practice piece I made, and it turned out pretty well. I was pretty happy with it. So you don't need a huge amount of skill to get into it either. You can pick it up as you go. Anyway, so I was consuming like a lot of woodworking videos on YouTube. There's heaps, and I guess after a while you start thinking, maybe I can make YouTube videos myself. So early 2015, I just like used my cell phone and learned how to edit videos, used my cell phone and just started making videos. And never really looked back, and here I am. Yeah, and this is definitely my most popular YouTube video with about 120,000 views, which is, by YouTube standards, that's not high, but if you think about 120,000 people, that's quite incredible. So this is a bench seat that sits in my entrance hall. This is just structural pine, off-the-shelf Bunnings, off-the-shelf Bunnings wood, and the legs are Merbau decking, scrap Merbau decking wood from my deck rebuild. It has some nice joinery details here, so it's got a little bit of hand tool cred to it, and I hand planed. If you know what structural pine's like, it has like little ridges to stop it going moldy, and the corners are all round, and I literally was doing this a lot to make this. I estimate it took me probably about 80 hours to make. But I enjoyed every minute of it. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but it's, making something like this and seeing it every day in your hallway is quite incredible. All right, so I'm just going to start getting back into talking about electronics. So let's rewind to 2009. So that's meant to say 2009. So at this time, this is pre-woodworking. I was looking to upgrade my PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, and I had the choice of do I get a second-hand original PS3, or do I get the new slim model here? And I was reading forums comparing the two models and what people thought of them, and a lot of people were discussing the aesthetics of the two models, thinking that this one was the ugly one, this one's the pretty one. And I'm kind of thinking, they're both ugly. I mean, they're both plastic. I mean, as electronics go, they're not too bad. But they're both plastic, and comparing like one sort of plastic to another sort of plastic is just, to me, seems silly. And I was thinking, like, what better idea is to buy something like this and just hide it away in a beautiful, like, hardwood cabinet under your TV and never have to look at it. And then I was thinking it's kind of a shame to spend so much money on something like this and then just hide it. And I'm like, what if something like a PlayStation could have a beautiful, like, hardwood actual case on it? Then you wouldn't want to hide it away and have like little holes that the lights can shine through, and like beautiful like stainless steel buttons, and it could be a real piece of art or something you'd really want to show off. And of course, like Sony or whoever's never going to do something like that. They'd add hundreds and hundreds of dollars to the price. But this gave me the idea well, maybe you could just get the insides of a PlayStation, and instead of getting the case, you could just buy the internals, and then you could have like, your console, beautiful console wood case, and whenever you upgrade a console, you just insert new electronics inside it, and you keep the beautiful enclosure. So this is kind of what gave me the idea to sort of combine woodworking and electronics. This is back in 2009, before I even got close to starting. It was always an idea in the back of my head. All right, so fast forward to 2017, and now I felt like I had the tools experience, and actually, I could start realizing my dream of doing this. So this is probably the first real attempt at realizing this idea. This is a reclaimed wood LED clock. This is a 16 by 9 LED grid from Adafruit. That's an Arduino Nano, and that's a real-time clock, and that's all inside this case. This is literally a piece of wood I found on the road outside my house. It was completely grey and weathered. It looked like rubbish. But if anyone has done hand-tool woodworking, you get a piece of wood like that, if you know it's hardwood and you run the plane over it a couple of times, it's just like this amazing beauty comes out of the timber. All these just like little weather defects and cracks, and just like texture. It's really beautiful wood to work with. So making this, I actually used a electronics perf board as a template, and drilled a whole series of holes, and it happened to be the perf board was the exact, the holes were exactly right place to use as a template for this LED grid. So this is, I think, fairly unique. I hadn't seen anyone do something similar to this. And here's electronics packed on the inside. Electronics are always bigger than you expect. So it was a pretty snug fit. And this is an aluminium plate that gives it a nice accent. So I was pretty happy this turned out, and the video did quite well. Here's another one of my projects. This is an LED lamp. Again, this is reclaimed. This is actually reclaimed pallet wood, would you believe it or not? Absolutely beautiful piece of wood with these weather band down the middle from where it's been exposed to the elements. Yeah, and I'll use resin to fill the holes, and there's an LED strip on the inside. Right, DIY Google Assistant, that thing there. So early this year, Google opened up its SDK for its Google Home API, so you can wire up a Raspberry Pi to it. So I thought that'd be a cool project. And so this is a Raspberry Pi 3. You can just see a little USB speaker here. And this is just an off-the-shelf $20 laptop USB speaker, which I literally cracked open the case and pulled the components out from the inside. And there's its little speaker control that USB control that came with it. Doing very well. Yeah, so that's what it looks like on the inside. And again, there's the actual perf board. I used as a template to drill the speaker holes in it. Yeah. So I'll see if I can. Okay, Google, how do you like your enclosure?
I love my case. The Tasmanian oak is so nice to touch, but it can feel a little cramped at times.
Yeah, so there it is. So I'm pretty happy with this, how this turned out. Raspberry Pis are actually bigger than they look, and the case took a few iterations to get right. Because once you worry about all the USB plugs sticky out at various angles, that kind of increases the size a fair bit. In the first few iterations, it was kind of ending up the size of a small DVD player, which I really wasn't happy about. So it took me a couple of attempts to get to that sleek look. Well, hopefully, I think it's sleek. Subjective, obviously. All right, so I'm going to talk about why you'd want to do this. And I think the first reason is low barrier to entry. As I said, woodworking can be a bit daunting. I need a table saw, I need a bandsaw, I need a drill press, I need a power joint, a power planer. These are all expensive tools, and they take up a lot of space. They're also quite, can be quite dangerous if you don't know how to use them. So it's a fairly high barrier to entry, and I just didn't have the space or the money to get this set up going. If you want a bit more modern take in making, it's not as bad, but it's kind of similar. If you want a bit more modern maker space, you'd probably want a 3D printer, laser cutter, CNC. I mean, 3D printers are definitely accessible price-wise at the moment, but laser cutters and CNCs are still quite expensive, and they take up a fair bit of space. So again, it's a bit of a barrier to entry. So this is my shed. I should really fix that clothesline. Yeah, it's 7 by 9 feet, and this is where I do all my making and shoot all my videos through. The reason why the panels are missing off the window is because if I want to get a side shot, I actually have to take the tripod outside of my shed and shoot through that window there, which is a pain if it's raining. Yeah, and this is what I use. This is what I've got. And so I make the most out of it. And here's really my initial setup. With cheap chisel set from Bunnings, secondhand number 4 hand plane off eBay, cheap Bunnings tenon saw, a few free things I already had, cheap clamp set. The woodworking vise, I think there's this community of vise collectors. Any sort of old, nice vise just seems to cost a fortune. So I actually ended up buying a new vise from Bunnings. It doesn't have the nice made in England stamp I really wanted on it, but it works. Yeah, I scored an old physics, my wife scored an old physics lab table for free from uni. So keep your eye out for that kind of stuff. And that was a big, sturdy table, which I still use. And I just grabbed a cheap sharpening system off eBay, just the Wheatstones, which not great, but it worked. And I already had a drill and bits. So this is probably less than $250 to get started. And this is the tool, more or less the tools I think I used to make this bench seat here, which has there's some through tenon joinery on it. There's some dado joinery there. I think maybe I had a fancier chisel set to make this, but otherwise it was pretty much this tool set. So you can get, with hand tool woodwork, you can get up and running really cheaply and quite easily with a limited space. And then as you go, you can upgrade your tools as you get the money to do it. This is the chisel set I still use, the Stanley Sweetheart range. They're probably a mid-range chisel. This is one of my pride and joy, my Veritas hand router, which is an absolute joy to look at and use. That was expensive. All right. And of course, once you skill up with hand tools, you'll then have skills to solve a lot of problems. This was a project I wanted to do to see if I could make something by hand that looked like it had been CNC'd. Whether you think it has looked like it's been CNC'd, I'll leave it to you. I think it turned out all right. The only power tool I used in this was a small drill press to drill the holes and use a circular drum sander to get the inner circle nice and smooth. Otherwise, this is all mallet, chisel, and saw made. So I was pretty happy with how that turned out. talk about hand tool resources. Check out Paul Sellis. He has a fantastic set of online tutorial videos, real-time him making stuff, talking about all the techniques and tools and stuff you need through it. He does have a premium, sorry, where's my bag? He does have a premium video content, but I think his best stuff's for free, and it's pretty much how I learnt hand tool woodworking. And for electronics, I mean, you can get electronics set up for about $200. That will have a pretty average soldering on, but it'll work and get you started. Sort of the harder thing with electronics is quite a steep learning curve, especially if you don't know how to have a program, which luckily I did. If you don't know how to program, you're probably looking at 20 to 40 hours of just learning the basics of programming before you get up and running with Arduinos, just like the for loops and variables and that kind of thing. All right, so Adafruit is actually a really good resource for electronics. They have highly detailed guides and documents about the stuff they sell. Like that 16-by-9 LED grid I use for the clock, I think they had about a five-page guide on this. This is how you solder on the backboard, and this is how you program for it, and this is how you get the tutorials up and running. And they have just generic tutorials about soldering and that kind of stuff. So even though they're a shop, they're well worth checking out. As for programming, I found this guide. As I said, I knew how to program, so I didn't really feel like I needed to skill up for Arduino, but this one looked pretty good. Oops. All right, so to summarize this section. So when you skill up with hand tools, and after the zombies come, which they will, and civilization is being rebuilt, you can say, I can build stuff without electricity. Which is cool bragging rights, and useful for when the zombies come. All right, so I'm going to get into the second reason why I think this is something that's worth looking at, and that reason is unique. There's not many people who are building stuff like that. So I've considered it a kind of gap in the market. And let's face it, technology is ugly. I love that. It's like, they are just amazing. I'm sure the owner's very proud. And this is interesting, like, furniture and tools used to be made to build to last. I mean, most families have that big, heavy, hardwood chest of drawers or desk or something that's passed down for generations. And it's kind of the same with with good quality hand tools. They were also passed down. My grandkids will probably be using that Veritas hand router if I look after it, which I will. And it's kind of like something, I think it's a bit of a commentary on our generation that's like, what we make is not, like the electronics we make is not going to be passed down to the next generation. And it's kind of like, I kind of think about that, and imagine a world where you do make something like that and your grandkids are arguing, I mean, not that that's probably good enough, but your grandkids are arguing about who gets the custom AI enclosure your granddad made, their granddad made. That's kind of interesting. And it's something to think about. Another reason I think it could help reduce waste, the endless sort of churn of technology. If you have something really bespoke and beautiful, I think you're going to be a lot less likely to want to upgrade it as fast. And if you do need to upgrade it, hopefully you can just upgrade the internal electronics. If that Raspberry Pi dies, I can just put the Raspberry Pi 6 or whatever in it as a replacement, and technology gets smaller, so it should fit. And keep the enclosures as an ongoing sort of like that could be my Google Home in 20 years' time still. And this is an interesting thought experiment I do. What does a home look like in 50 years? Does it look like a tech utopia? I absolutely love this. Like, technology is everywhere. It's like this guy's got his headphones, he's got a remote control. Fruit still exists in the future, so that's great. He's watching what looks like hover soccer. These players look like they're hovering around a field, kicking a ball. The TV's got keyboards. That's nice. I so want this drinks cocktail robot. That looks awesome. You know, his flatmate's filming the neighbours. That's nice. Every house has a satellite dish on it. CDs are cool again in the future. Obviously, hipsters have discovered CDs are now retro, and CDs are back in fashion. And I don't know what this is. I think Pac-Man's high score, I assume. And the telephone has a TV on it, as well as sound. And I got that right. Yeah, my phone has a TV. It's great. Future's awesome. So looking forward to it. So it doesn't look like this, but technology is really obvious and in your face. And just, you know, or is technology invisible? Do you not see it? I can imagine a house like this, and the TV could be integrated in the glass, and when you need it, it just appears in the glass. And everything's run by Google Assistants that are just integrated in the house. You don't see them. And technology is just, it's in your life, but it's seamless. You don't notice it. You don't look at it. I don't know which of the two I'd prefer. All right, so time. Not too bad. So in summary, I think building stuff like that, you know, it could catch on as a trend. It could come in fashion. Technology providers could start catering for stuff like that. It's very early days, obviously, but it could improve our relationship with technology as well. And it could help with the endless sort of technology upgrade cycle. Definitely not eliminate it, but help reduce it. And there's a gap in the market. So if you're a budding Etsy seller or something like that, this could be something that's well worth looking into. Yeah. So thank you. There's my general social media links. I'm about 47 subscribers off 5,000 on YouTube, so if you can help me get to the 5,000 mark. And I didn't really dive deep into the technical stuff of Raspberry Pis and Arduinos because that's talk in itself. But if anyone wants to ask me technical questions, I'm happy to answer them if I can, or just general questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Any questions from the room? Yeah, clap first, actually. Let's clap.
Thank you.
Do you want to ask Google Assistant a question?
Yeah, and I'll stick a microphone near it.
Okay, Google. Okay, Google. How'd you like my talk?
Sorry, I can't help with that yet.
Hang on. So you got to get these exact answer question right. Okay, Google, how did you like my presentation? Okay, Google, how did you like my presentation?
I love the talk. You do such amazing talks at Adelaide Maker Fair and make very nice things.
Okay, Google, what do you think of Adelaide? Sorry, oops, cancel.
Alexa has such a soothing voice. I like it.
Okay, Google, what do you think of Maker Fair Adelaide?
Sorry, I don't know how to do that yet.
Okay, Google. Okay, Google, what do you think of Maker Fair Adelaide?
I've seen so many amazing makers at Adelaide Maker Fair. I'd like to be a maker someday.
That was really cool. Thank you so much. I want one. Very pretty.
Yeah.